Hello, a big welcome to you. Today I'm going to explore the relationship between Kejawen and Islam, as I'm sure that some of you who've been following me may be a little confused by it. Now this is part of a new section to the magic of Java called The Real Magic of Java. In this new section, I'm going to focus on real people performing what they believe to be real magic in Java. I'll attempt to explain some of the elements of this Javanese magic, particularly what I describe as the Kejawen elements. However, I need to warn you that inevitably my explanations will be partial. Maybe sometimes some elements of what I say will be incorrect, for which I profusely apologise. But this reflects the oral tradition of magic in Java, the mystery, and at times, I have to admit, subterfuge surrounding the practice of magic in Java. Please accept my apologies, but I do hope you enjoy this section. Now, I consider myself to be a Kejawen Muslim, or both Muslim and Kejawen. To a degree, I shift my beliefs from a broad Sufi understanding of Islam to a more Hindu or Buddhist-based philosophy, whereas Pakano is a Kejawen Catholic. You can also be a Kejawen Hindu, a Kejawen Buddhist, maybe not an atheist, because there is a need to believe in the Creator. And some people would only identify themselves as being Kejawen and refer to God as Jagusti. But Kejawen Muslims would be by far and away the majority. Kejawen simply means a religion of Java, but it incorporates animistic traditions, Hinduism, Buddhism, which are somewhat interchangeable in Indonesia, and indeed in quite a lot of Southeast Asia, rather than distinct as they're seen in the West. And finally, Islam doesn't really incorporate Christianity, but this is represented via the Abrahamic tradition of Islam, and so therefore also would be Judaism. Kejawen believers have many similar beliefs to the Balinese Hindus, who of course were originally from Java. However, within Java and in Bali, Islam and Hinduism are moving apart as they conform more to international expectations. In Indonesia, we venerate the Sufi saints known as Wali Songo, who brought Islam to Indonesia, and especially Sunan Kalijaga, who adapted Islam to Javanese traditions, including the gamelan orchestra and the wayang shadow puppets, or puppets I should say. He introduced Masyarakat, the equality of people, in contrast to the Hindu caste system. He also helped found the Mataram Sultanate. Indeed, Sunan Kalijaga is maybe the most important figure within Kejawen. Pilgrims visit his grave in Damak in much the same way as Catholics do to Catholic saints. Also, as with Catholic pilgrimage, there are many trinkets sold at his graveside, said to hold mystical powers. Sunan Kali Jaga's guru was Sunan Bonang, who incorporated the Salamatan, an animistic feast, into Islam. Now, one of the main Kejawen beliefs involves the acquisition of Tenaga Dalam, or inner power, or a mystical union with God. Sunan Siti Jenar was executed by the other Sunan because he affirmed that it was possible for every human to articulate the divine power from within his inner self. Now, moderate Sufis talk of kissing the threshold of the Sharia in similar ways to grounding. And I believe this is wise advice indeed. Some accounts suggest that the other Sunan actually agreed with Sunan Siti Jenar, but it was his public acclamation of it that they felt to be dangerous, summed up in the prophetic Kejawen directive: God is within you, God is everywhere, but do not say that you are God. Now, really, this is at the heart of Kejawen, because as we seek a oneness with God and believe that consciousness co-creates our reality, but there is a danger of allowing the ego to dominate and we behave as godlike. Nevertheless, unlike Kejawen, which is a true occult and hidden, I believe that the ego leads us to believe that we should not share what we understand to be true. In other words, whilst we do shun evangelism, I don't think that anyone has the right to censor. Now, I'm sure those of you those of you who are Muslim or know a little about Islam will be scratching your heads, because within Islam, Shirk is the sin of idolatry or polytheism, i.e. the deification or worship of anyone or anything besides Allah. Islam teaches us that God does not share his divine attributes with any partner. Allah does not forgive association with him. Al-Quran 4:48. So Protestant Muslims, and I use the word Protestant Muslims in inverted commas because there's no real such thing, but to help you understand, see the incorporation of Hindu and Buddhist beliefs as shirk. The more messianic Muslims, and again it's a bad use of words, but I suppose what in the West are called hardline, something I don't like at all, but they'd see our acceptance of Christianity and Judaism as shirk, even though this is a central tenet of Islam itself. They see praying at a grave as shirk. Indeed, on the Arabian Peninsula, they even see graves themselves as shirk. The veneration of Sunan Kali Jaga and the other Wali Sungal would be seen as shirk, as would be mythical characters like Nira Orakidal and Semar Masam. Indeed, Semar Masam is actually an occultist reminder of us not to forget Buddhism. In Kejawen, we use statues of ancient and Hindu deities, so again this would be seen as shirk. In common with Catholics, however, we don't believe we're deifying people, ancient gods or objects, but using these things to help us to come closer to God. Indeed, even the Hindu deities are seen as helping us to become closer to the Supreme Being, and at least formally, the Balinese Hindus also believe this. We do see acting as godlike as shirk, and therefore would include judging others to have committed shirk as shirk itself. Indeed, any form of judgment and punishment, including civil law, is shirk. We also espouse any form of evangelism, believing that there are many paths to God, including those outside of formal religion. Now, in the UK, and certainly in the UK, thanks to Gerald Gardner and Ruqyah, magic is seen as a religion, or at least competing with religion. But the Eastern traditions have never been reformed, and magic and religion are really one, connected through spirituality. Nevertheless, many Muslims see magic and divination as blasphemy. And certainly it's possible to find verses in Al-Quran and Hadiths which can be used to condemn magic. The more messianic Muslims see the evil eye, which I would define as simply as jealousy. I'm sure they would use a slightly different definition, as separate from magic, but nevertheless condemn it. In the Arabian Peninsula, a form of magic is practiced, or at least alleged to be, which is a little like how evangelical Christians believe Satanism to be. And indeed, just like evangelical Christians, they will point to all forms of magic and believe them to be one and the same, believe them all to be Satanism. So this that's allegedly practiced, and you can find videos of it on YouTube, but I'm just unsure if it's actually practiced or this is some sort of propaganda. But you can see things like Al-Quran being put in a sewer. And now, if you believe that there is such a thing as blasphemy, and it's not a man-made law as I see it, then this would be clearly blasphemy. As I say, I don't really think there is such a thing as blasphemy. It's just a man-made construct. But certainly, I'd condemn such things. Nevertheless, in Al-Quran, as Muslims, we should embrace all forms of knowledge. And I'd include in this a knowledge of magic. Now, Islam itself, like the Eastern religions, didn't really have a reformation. Nor, theoretically, did it need one, as especially for Sunnis, there shouldn't be, and to a large degree there aren't, hierarchies. But Messianic Muslims apply the Enlightenment's materialist assumptions to their beliefs, even though these have never supplanted a more Gnostic understanding of Islam. So seeing a knowledge of magic as blasphemy is really applying a Christian Protestant tradition onto Islam. I think the real issue is the practice of magic and the definition of black and white magic. Jihad actually means one's internal struggle between good and bad, not what the Western press have twisted it to mean. And so for me, a major part of my jihad is about, can I practice magic? And where the line between black and white magic is. Sometimes I believe that if magic is used for good, then that's okay. At other times, I believe anything imposing our will on others is shirk. And I include in this all forms of power, not simply magical. Nevertheless, despite what I've said, I refrain from anything like this during Ramadan, including helping others through divination and the removal of jinns. Having said all this, the higher veils of Kejawen show that the use of magic is really a naive preoccupation. They exist only to lead one closer to God. Now, Pacano uses light to cure people, or the light, I should say. Jung's light worker, if you like. And having also been blessed with this light, I have no doubt whatsoever that this is a gift from God. In fact, the light is pure, pure love. Nevertheless, I still struggle with how much we should interfere with the universe. Now, there are 7 veils of Kejawen, which, although building on each other, have little in common and indeed contradict the last veil. The higher veils of Kejawen are really a form of Sufism. So the closer you get to God, all that I've just described to you becomes superfluous. What matters is becoming closer to God. And once you experience the light, you understand that nothing else matters, which I believe makes the critique of Protestant Muslims rather short-sighted and juvenile. But I shouldn't be using such strong words, because I must have compassion and understanding. I created the jinns and humankind only that they may worship me. Al-Quran 51:56. Now, jinn magic is very much a part of the lower veils of Kejawen. There are definitely forces which cannot be explained by material science. So if we see these as external and not a part of our consciousness, then jinns would explain a lot. I don't mind using the word jinn, but I actually see these the same as fairies, elves, goblins, leprechauns, etc., etc. The differing names simply reflecting man's preoccupation with hierarchies. I certainly believe that what are called jinns and viruses are connected. Maybe jinns cause viruses, but I'm much more inclined to think that viruses are themselves jinns. Now, Ruqyah is a form of Islamic exorcism to get rid of jinns, and it involves what I believe to be bullying the jinn, using the recital of Quranic verse for them to convert to Islam and then leave the host. Nevertheless, my experience is that this form of Ruqyah is not as effective as using compassion and delight, but the overall principles are very similar. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this. Because these are real events, I can't say how regularly I'm going to be adding to this subsection. Because I don't know how often they're going to occur. But I would imagine that they'll be at least every couple of months, maybe monthly. Now, if you'd like to know when that's going to be, please subscribe and hit the button, and you'll get information on when new ones are released. I'd love you to make comments and ask questions, and if you do, I'll attempt to answer them as honestly as I can. I promise you that there's no attempt on this channel, or this part of this channel, of me, there'll be no attempt by me at any type of subterfuge. I'll try to be as honest and open as I possibly can be. Inevitably, there will be some of you who disagree with my interpretation, and, we can agree to disagree. But what you're seeing is real stuff here. What I'd love you to do, if you enjoyed this, is look at my other sections. Particularly, I've written novels about magic in Java, and they contain much more information in them, especially me trying to understand the theories of magic, the psychology of it, and I try and intersperse them with a sort of spiritual dimension. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and God bless you.